In today's video, I'm going to share with you how I got these spider plants from one plant and also a few other garden updates. So please stay tuned and watch the entire video. Hi everyone and welcome to Fresh from My Garden. So, I had shared a spider plant care and propagation a few weeks back, and in that, I had showed you the flowers from the spider plant and also the pups that are growing from one plant. So, these pups can be separated from the mother plant and grown into new plants. Usually, these pups take quite a while to form because I have had these plants for a couple of years now, and it's just recently that this plant started flowering and produced these pups. And I also lost a few of those pups because they were kept too close to my water garden, and the snails from the water garden damaged a lot of part of my spider plants. So, in these pups, you can see these small nodes, and these are the nodes from which new roots develop and they can grow into a new plant. So, these spider plants are beautiful air purifying plants that we can keep indoors or outdoors. So, when we keep them for a long time indoors, the growth can be pretty slow. And once you keep them outdoors, then they start to get more light and fresh air, and that is when they start to produce pups. And I had mentioned this also in my previous video. So, after these plants were placed outside, is when they started flowering and producing these pups. So, once these pups are produced, you can separate them from the mother plant after you start to see the nodes or small root growth on them. And if you want, you can directly plant them into another container, or you can place these into containers nearby, small containers, and clip them down, and then they can grow, and later on, you can separate them. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip these off and place them in a bowl of water. So once these are kept in a bowl of water or in a glass of water for a few days, they will start to develop a lot of new roots. And at that time, the propagation will be 100%, more or less 100% successful. So if you would like to directly cut it and place it in the soil, that would also be fine. But in that situation, we cannot be sure if the roots will develop well, and the plant, after being detached from the mother plant and placed directly in the soil, can die very quickly. So, this is my method of doing it, and I'm going to cut these. And here you can see the nodes at the end of each plant, and I'm going to place them into this bowl of water and let it sit for a few days till I see any sort of root development. Now, after all these pups have developed new roots, I'm going to be transplanting them into these containers. So, these are a few containers that I had with me after purchasing a lot of plants from the nursery. So, we save a lot of these containers and also these takeout food containers. So, I have filled all of these with some potting soil and compost. And as you can see, these roots have developed really well, and these are going to be transplanted into these containers today. So use a stick and make some space in this container to plant these saplings so that when you push these plants into the soil, the roots don't get damaged or the plant doesn't get damaged. So I'm going to plant all these, and I have about 8 of these spider plant pups that I'm going to be planting today. So now I have all these spider plant pups that I have transplanted into individual containers. And since these saplings are small, they need to be planted in small containers first and then transplanted to bigger containers later. And today I am also transplanting some wandering Jew cuttings that I had in this bottle of water. So, this bottle of water was placed in my living room as a living room decor. And after these developed roots, I'm going to be transplanting these into a container that can be placed indoors. So here you can see that these roots have really developed well. They've been sitting in water for a couple of weeks now, and there are a lot of roots. So these are also going into this container that I have filled with potting mix, and this is going to be part of our indoor garden. With wandering Jew, we need to be really careful when placing them into the soil because you can see that the stems are so tender and very fragile that they tend to fall over. So make sure that you do not push these stems into the soil forcibly, and even after they are placed into the soil, they are cared for so that the stems don't break or get damaged. Here I have a wandering Jew stem which has roots on them, but it doesn't have a leaf. It just has one dried leaf on it. So I'm just going to pick off that dried leaf and place this into the soil since it has some good roots, and the leaves will start developing at a later time. So when you are transplanting these plants and if you see any dry leaves on the stems, make sure to take them all apart before planting them. Now, those these plants don't look really pretty and they are falling over, this is just because they have just been transplanted into this container. So, as the roots develop and get firm into the soil and the new leaves start to grow and there is a thicker growth, then these plants will start looking more beautiful. Now, this container will be part of our indoor living space. And after I have transplanted these spider plants into small containers, they need to be kept in the shade for a few days until the roots have developed well. And there are a few extra containers in which I had filled soil today. So, into these, I will be adding the cuttings of some of the pothos and philodendrons that are rotting in water. Now, this is the bottle in which I had added some stones for decoration and the wandering Joe cuttings. So, now that this bottle is empty, I'm going to be adding some new plants to it. So, I have taken some ferns from my garden and I'm going to be placing these ferns into this bottle of water. So when I picked these ferns from the garden, they already have some roots on them. So hopefully they will do well in this bottle of water. I have never tried growing ferns in water, so I'm not really sure how well they are going to do in this bottle of water. And before I add them to this bottle, I'm going to wash out all the soil from these plants and then add them to this bottle of water. So this is where the bottle was placed with the wandering Joe cuttings, and before that I had pothos and philodendron cuttings, and once they developed roots I transplanted them into containers. So now the wandering Joe has been replaced by these ferns that are part of this indoor garden of ours. So I hope you liked today's video on how to propagate and transplant spider plant pups. Please do keep watching our channel for more garden related videos and do subscribe and support our channel. Thanks for watching Fresh from my garden.